Hacktar 42. There's a lot going on here, right? Because I think the first thing you actually got to think more about is, can my players, do they have the fundamentals? Like, do all the players on the team have a basic level of fundamentals? So can they pass? Can they dribble? And can they juggle? Right? Because passing and shooting is kind of like an extension of juggling if you think about it. Juggling is rhythmic passing, rhythmic shooting, and maybe that's not a great way to look at it, but that's just how I personally look at it. So let's say they don't. Everyone on the team doesn't have those fundamentals. You know, you could go about this in two different ways, but I think the smartest way is to start to focus more on skills development and then not focus on the wins. Because if you focus on just winning the game, you know, you're not going to develop the players as fast as you would if you focus on the fundamentals. So that means every practice, we'll play out both scenarios. So let's say they don't have the fundamentals, right? They're poor in juggling, they're poor in passing, poor in shooting, and poor in dribbling. If they don't have the fundamentals, this is how I would formulate my practices. You know, you got to go. This is the Tom Turnbull skills and drills formula. It goes ball mastery, dribbling sequences, juggling games. So for example, you put a garbage can or barrel in the center of the center circle, and all the players stand on the outside of the circle, and then they try to juggle into the center. They try to juggle into the barrel with their right foot with a bounce, left foot with a bounce, right thigh with a bounce, left thigh with a bounce, finishing with any part of the body they want, with or without a bounce. And then as they improve, you could take away the bounce, or you could have them go from farther away, so it scales very nicely. And then you finish on 1v1. They play each other. They try to knock over each other's cones. Each player has a cone, and then you go 1v1, right? So with one ball, they're attacking and defending on each other's cone, try to knock over each other's cones, right? You just lay down some cones on a sideline, and then have cones, you know, a couple yards away, so that they're not spending a lot of time chasing, but, you know, they get a lot of touches and, you know, a lot of 1v1 play. And what I think this is going to do is, it's really going to help them, you know, if you improve their fundamentals, they're just gonna be better. They're just gonna they're gonna improve tremendously if you just run that same practice formula every practice. Okay, let's say they do have decent dribbling skills, juggling skills, and then also, if they have decent juggling skills, I'm assuming that they'd have decent passing and shooting skills, right? Okay, so let's say they have those fundamentals. Then you could run this practice session. This practice session goes warm up, possession, finishing on goal, crossing and finishing, and then playing to big goals, brought in very, very close together. So you have 3 teams rotating. It's 2 teams on at one time. The third team stays as bumper players on the outside with 1 touch. And the reason you want to have 3 teams playing is because this raises the competition. If it's just 2 teams playing against each other and 1 team scores, there's nothing gained or nothing lost. But if you have to fight to stay on, it's almost like King of the Hill style. You want to stay on, because if you lose, then you get out. And players like myself, who are super competitive, you know, I just love playing. So I think this really encourages competition within your team. And if you can make the level of competition within your team higher than any one of your opponents you face, you're going to have a great season. Right, so it's warm up, possession. Possession, you could play 3-team possession, monkey in the middle style. If you've got perfect numbers like 9 or 12 or 18, you could do 2 teams. You could do 2 teams, and then start reduce. You know, you know, start to reduce the touch count if they're ready for that. You know, if 2 teams can play possession with each other and they could string 4 to 5 to 6 passes together, then you could maybe start taking their touch count down from unlimited to 2 touch with one on the takeover. You could play You could play 2-team possession and then put some gates on the field, and then players have to play to their own teammate through a gate to score a point. And then what's going to happen is it's going to help them move the ball very effectively, because as the defending team tries to block the gate off, then the attacking team has to recognize the pressure and get the ball over to a gate that's being undefended. So those are some different possession games. You could also, so from there, right, warm up possession, any of those possession games, and then you want to make the field a slightly tighter than normal, so you get a lot of movement, and it's going to encourage them to really spread out if they're forced to become tight. You know, it's kind of counterintuitive. Then for finishing on goal, you want to start with, you know, low, hard-driven balls to the side netting, and then you could transition to volleys, right? Toss the ball over the head, they turn around, smack a one-time volley. Doug Nevins would call it Volleysville, right? It would go Slotsville, then Volleysville. After a couple, 10, 15 minutes of that, you go right into crossing and finishing. 2 serving lines on the outside, 2 finishing lines on the inside. Even with small numbers, you can execute this. So you'd have, like, you could even have, you know, alternating left side and right side, alternate every other serving line, and then 2 players in the middle just crisscross, finish on goal with any part of their body. 10 minutes of that, 10, 15 minutes of that, then straight into playing. Finish on a high note, and that's it, right? Finish, King of the Hill style, 3 teams, bring the goals in very tight, bring the field in narrow, so it's quick transitions, so that, you know, if players aren't marking or someone gets some open space, they could, you know, hit a goal very fast, and you could play Roman keepers if you're short a keeper, or sweeper keeper, or you could play, you know, you could even hop and goal. But that's what I would run every session. So the hardest part is deciding, am I a skills coach or am I a team coach? Because if they don't have the fundamentals, then you're a skills coach. And I'll argue that point with anyone, because if they're so young and they don't have fundamentals and you're focused on winning the game, then I don't think that's the right focus. Because, you know, you can't put winning over skills development and developing the players. You know, your players, you kind of want to improve their trajectory as players so they can excel and become, they should be better at the end of the season than when it started, right? So that was my rant, and hopefully it helps, and reach out with any questions. All right, thank you.